It's Dr. Nick Araza talking to you about why we stretch and why we mash. Okay, so these are functional forms of exercise that help to increase range of motion of tissue and take pressure off of other tissue. Okay, so here's the deal. Stretching, the goal is to lengthen a muscle belly. Mashing, the goal is to take knots in a muscle belly and iron them out so they glide nice and easy. Okay, so they have some things in common. The things in common are they have to be done repetitively to make a change. They have to be done uncomfortably. So with stretching or mashing, you want to have some discomfort when you're doing it. If it doesn't feel like it's doing anything, it's probably not doing anything. Okay, so when you're mashing a tissue, whether it's a foam roller or a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball, supernova, something like that, you want it to be in this therapeutic range where it feels intense and it's kind of like a good bad pain thing happening. It can be very intense, but it's not invasive. It's not, you don't feel it's tearing your tissues. Okay. Same thing for stretching. It's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to want to be done with a good stretch that's actually going to lengthen the tissue. Both of them also need to be done for approximately 1 minute plus. Okay. Under a minute, worthless. Okay, so if you've only got 40 seconds to do something, don't do it. Wait until you got a minute plus. Minute and a half is actually better. Make sure you get the job done. In some mashing sessions, you can spend a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, depending on after you've been doing it for a while. So stretches typically, they both, like I said, is somewhere between 1 to 5 times per day. But they also are something that's new to you, and therefore you can overdo it. So what we ask you to do is kind of this bell-shaped curve with these things, where you start off with once a day, and the next day, if it feels the same or better, you do it again once a day. And you do that for a few days until you feel like, hey, I think I'm ready to try it twice a day, and then 3 times a day. And then you can get up to 4 and 5 times a day, specifically also on stretches. Mashes, usually you're going to do that 2 to 3 times per day. With the mashing, you're going to do that until you can't really feel that discomfort. Like you're searching, you're trying to find the spots, and you can't because the tissue's getting healthier. The knots are coming out. Once you hit that zone, then you get to decrease the amount. So that's usually somewhere between as little as 2 weeks and as long as a month and a half or something like that. It depends on the tissue, how fibrotic, how gnarled up it is. Once you hit that though, and you're like, hey, I can't really find any spots, it just kind of feels like nothing, then start to reduce that. Go back to every other day or every third day, and eventually you'll only be doing it once a week or something like that. The healthier the tissue gets, the less mashing it needs, but it still should be like, essentially think of it like brushing your teeth. You're brushing and flossing different body parts. Stretching, it's got a longer duration. To lengthen a muscle belly takes longer because you're actually lengthening it versus just clearing out some knots and tissue in there. So stretching to change like your hamstring length, that could take months and months. It could take, when I was lengthening mine, I got about 6 or 7 inches of functional length to that, but it took me about 6 or 7 months. I was getting about 1 inch per month. Before and after, test, retest, you should be able to feel a difference with those things. You should be able to like, hey, I only have this much range. You mash, you stretch, you do your thing, and then you're like, whoa, look at that, I got more range. But it doesn't last. You got to that pattern starts to tighten up again. It's kind of like adjusting to the joint. You do it again, a little bit more. You do it again, a little bit more. You do it again, a little bit more. So again, these things need to be done repetitively. They should be uncomfortable. Communicate if you have any sort of pain that feels not right. It shouldn't cause the exacerbation of the pain that you've got. It should be a completely different type of discomfort. And stay on it. Stay consistent. This stuff will change your life. Okay? As long as you add to and stay with it. One last note about mashing is it's best done pre-workout. Okay? And one last note about stretching, it's best done post-workout when the tissues are warm. So pre is mashing, post is working out. Your tissues are a little weaker if you went static stretching, like a long-standing hamstring stretch, and then a workout. That's not a good ideal. So you want to start with mashing, finish with stretching. Or if you got to stretch, give yourself at least an hour before you have to do workout.